I don't want to repeat what a lot of people have already said. I want to make a few comments about the structure of the process and then a few specific points about the project itself. First, I think this project has to be viewed as a heuristic exercise. It's a thought experiment. It's not a turnkey model. We're never going to have a special regime just open this booklet and here's what to do. What the thought experiment did was give the opportunity to see what seems to work and what problems need further discussion. In that regard, second, the project underscored the timeliness of this discussion. And here I think it's unfortunate that Elie Wiesel's view that Jerusalem's too hot to handle, so defer it. I must say, when we started this project, I'd say a majority of the people at the first meeting in Istanbul felt that way. But after 2, 3, 4 years of discussion, they started to see that there are things one can, in fact, talk about. And it's a pity, perhaps, that we didn't bring Elie Wiesel into the meetings 3 years ago. We might have had a different view today. Thirdly, I have to keep underscoring this because there's a lot of slippage. This is not an international solution for Jerusalem. It is a binational, Israel and Palestine. There's slippage. Even in this discussion, people said the UN Security Council will give an approbation, and then there'll be two sources of authority. There can't be, I'm enough of a lawyer to say, there can't be two sources of authority. The source of authority has to be the agreement between Israel and Palestine. The Security Council can clap, and that's a nice thing to do. And similarly, because they're donors, they need an international role. Again, the more you raise the international aspect, the less you're going to have success. Further, on the big picture, this has to be seen as an administrative solution, not a way of putting off policy problems. It only will work as an integral part of a peace treaty where the policy issues have been worked out. If the special regime is a way, as someone said, of pushing the policy agreements along, it will blow up. If it is a way of saying, we've settled the big policy issues, but we realize that it's just not possible for us to deal bilaterally with the many administrative issues, and we're going to bring in a Canadian or a Sri Lankan to do that scut work, you might say, then it will be a big success. Now, I just have a few kind of general comments about the project. First, I don't understand, and I don't want to make this a way of rehashing things that they didn't agree with when I raised it in the discussions. Land. I don't see how you can put a standstill to land sales, land arrangements, land purchases or leases when the regime comes into effect. I mean, you can't stop business that way. You'll end up with people not selling the land and giving 99-year leases, which is what actually happens in much of the old city now anyhow. I don't think you can use the land question as a way of reverting back to 1967 or back to 1948. Whatever accommodations are going to be made in relation to the fairness or unfairness of the absentee Land Act, which allowed Israel to take over land of absentee residents in enemy countries, will have to be worked out in the peace treaty. You're not going to work that out in the special regime. So I think you have to approach land from a different direction. Similarly, I don't think enough attention has been given to what is really the 800-pound gorilla here, religion. There's some sense that religious councils will take care of it. I'm all for religious councils. I'm a big fan of the Council of Religious Institutions of the Holy Land, which Tron Bakovic has been facilitating to put together. But you know, in the Treaty of Versailles, they said we'll solve the problems of the holy places by a religious council, a Holy Places Commission. They couldn't put one together Why? Because the churches couldn't agree on who'd be on it. In the when the Britain accepted the mandate said holy places issues will be solved by a religious council. And the same thing happened. Britain wanted to have a holy places commission, but they couldn't get the churches to agree who'd be on it. So they said, okay, after 2 years of trying, we gave up. So I'm not sure that you're going to solve the issues of religion through a religious council. I think to some extent, the special regime administrator is going to have to bite the bullet on these things. Again, that's what happened with the mandate when in the 1924, the British issued what's so-called Order in Council, where they said, holy places issues are too sensitive to be dealt with by courts. They'll be dealt with by the executive, by the High Commissioner, the forerunner, so to speak, of the special regime administrator. I think in this regard, and here again, I certainly disagree with Gilad, we have to get away from the notion of asymmetric claims. I don't think any of us who are Jewish could assess the weight of the Muslim claim, and the Muslims can't assess the weight of the Jewish claim. So I think there has to be approached that these are the claims of the religions, and now how we're going to deal with them, which leads to a very important point. The competing claims are not necessarily a zero-sum game. There is a lot of loose talk about what sovereignty means, what control means, what exclusive use means. It's not exactly clear, even in the religious texts, what is required to have control of the Temple Mount. Is it sovereignty? Is it exclusive use? Is it use when you need it? Is it ownership? Certainly the Christians have never made a need to own the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Actually, here's my property deed. They have a need for use of it, which they have under the Ottoman status quo agreement. So I think a lot of work has to be done in understanding how the distinctions between sovereignty, ownership, managerial control, and use can get us out of the zero-sum game in dealing with religion in the old city. Thank you.
Thank you.